Today I want to give you the opportunity to think about yourself, to think about your life and its potential. You know, there's an underlying dogma in our culture. If we're interested in personal happiness, we must work harder, work longer hours, earn more money, and just end up buying more things. If we're interested in personal convictions and ideals, we must hold steadfast to them and hold them true only to ourselves. You know, is working harder the only way to maximize skill? Or gaining knowledge the only place to gain it in the classroom? Well, when we hold true to our ideals and beliefs, but keep them to ourselves, is that the best way to manage our beliefs? We hold both skill and belief in the forefront of our lives, but we seemingly always keep them separate, at arm's length. Never the twain shall meet. Are skill and belief completely different aspects of our lives? Are they incompatible with each other? Or should we look to marry them somehow? You know, as a young boy growing up in Canada, I was always told that skills development was the key to opportunity in my life. I was raised by parents who had immigrated to Canada in the 1960s and had come so that I would have opportunity that they just didn't have. And through this, that somehow I'd found a purpose of my life. I always wondered, if I was blessed with opportunity, knowledge, and skill, why wouldn't I want to give that away, just as my parents had given it to me? So I decided, of all things, to pursue a degree in education in chemical engineering. The journey wasn't always romantic, but what I discovered was taking the classroom knowledge and turning it into a hands-on skill was something that I became passionate about. I discovered so many things about myself, so many things about my childhood passions and connecting those, and discovering this purpose inside my life. Also, during the same journey, I began to explore and began to formulate my beliefs. The way people live their lives, the difficulty of political, social, economic, and gender hardships. I began to discover so many things about myself, things that I loved, things that drove me, and some passions that I had. You know, I began to imagine. I began to reimagine. I began to take points and time to think about this intersection of skills and beliefs, and it began to put me on a very rewarding journey. You know, identity. What is identity? You know, renowned psychologist Barry Schwartz says, we don't need to inherit our identity. We need to invent it. We need to reinvent it. We need to decide who we want to be. You know, I remember speaking at a conference in Ottawa, our nation's capital, and I was speaking to high school students representing 44 high schools across the city. And during my talk, I had interwoven asking them what they wanted to do and what they wanted to become in their life and all these different things about the future. But during those times and the answers that were given, I found that sometimes their responses were void and filled with really not purpose or direction. So imagine if we can inspire our young people of this country to somehow connect that intersection point between their skills, what they're doing in school, with what their childhood passions are, what their passions and what they want to do. Imagine if we can do that. So what's a skill? You know, what are they for? Are they for us or are they for others? Can we offer them? Well, Webster states a skill is the ability to use one's knowledge effectively and readily in execution or performance. Okay, so readily, it's the ability to take what's in our mind and to make it practical and do something with it. So I remember just a few months ago, I was in Ghana, West Africa. I was about 45 kilometers just west of the capital of Accra. And I was there installing a water system in a very poor village called Dentra Village. And we were using a hand-powered drill, something that we do all the time at home. But these gentlemen and these people of the village had never seen an electrical drill. And they were just in awe and amazed with this drill, and they just came and they just surrounded us, and they wanted to learn more about it. They wanted to hold it. They wanted to do stuff with it. And every opportunity that we were using it, they would take it away, literally. And they would say, let me use it, let me use it. And we're like, oh, okay. But it was amazing to see that they just had this curiosity, this want to gather skill. So what are our beliefs? You know, the dictionary says beliefs are assumptions and convictions that we hold true by an individual or a group regarding a concept, an event, a people, or a thing. So have we really formulated our beliefs? What do we believe are the basic rights that we hold for the essence of humanity? The right to dignity, the right to live, the right to freedom of others. What are our dreams, our passions? The ideas of peace, the ideas of justice, equality, love for others, and things dear to me are the right to food, the right to water. And I remember this last year being in Uganda, East Africa. And I have a friend, her name is Jolly Okot, and in 2005 she was a nominee for a Peace Prize, a Nobel Peace Prize, for what she was doing with the children that have been affected by the war. And what I found every time I've been with her is that her beliefs come so strongly through with everything she says. And I went and spoke to the children that she was working with, and I spoke to them one individually, one at a time. And I found that her beliefs and her passions were actually transforming these children and restoring their dreams, their hopes, and their passions. It was absolutely incredible. So we come to intersection, and this is something that I love. I love bringing things together. I'll ask you to take a moment. When you were children and you were growing up, you would always wonder, what am I going to be when I grow up? What am I going to do? And if we can imagine your life, what would it look like? So if you start to imagine yourself and seeing the intersection points of what you have as your giftings or your knowledge or your technical skills, and you start to match them with the things that drive you, your passions, and the things that, your essence of who you are, can you mix those? Can you mix those things together? If you imagine the point, I think that you'll begin to discover ways that your expertise can complement your beliefs. I believe this intersection point is actually an act of imagination. It is out of this discovery that we can begin to increase the spiritual, political, and educational and economic strength of individuals and communities around the world. It begins to happen for you, and the amazing thing is it begins to happen for others around you. Change begins to happen. We begin to see things differently. We begin to change things, and we also begin to change the course of the human race around us. As I mentioned, I was a high school student, and I was at that same place of the people that I talked to in Ottawa. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to become when I was in high school. But one thing I did know was that I wanted to have an intersection between what was driving me and my beliefs for the people around me with what I wanted to do with my skills. But I didn't know these exact terms of skills and beliefs, but I knew I wanted to bring them together. Even before graduating from Ryerson University in Toronto, I was hired by a $2 billion company, and they hired me to bring water technology, Novell water technology, to the worldwide market. And I spent 10 years doing that, and it was absolutely incredible. An incredible company, incredible people. But what I found was I wasn't finding that intersection point. And the day came in 2004 when I had to walk in, and I chose to walk into the office of the vice president, and I said these words. I said, I'm resigning. And sometimes when you say those words, I'm resigning, from a current path, you feel dissatisfaction and failure. But resigning from that path that really didn't bring me any satisfaction actually wasn't failure. I realized that that life path that I was on wasn't going to bring that intersection. So as I've traveled all over the world, my heart has been broken for the poor, for the needy, for women and children, for the people experiencing in human trafficking. And I've been able to spend some time. I chose to spend some time with people in mud huts, with people in their small communities. I started to put myself in places where people were making a difference. And what I began to find was that getting clean water to rural villages was actually one of the things that would begin to change extreme poverty. Sometimes the issues that are in our world are very difficult, and sometimes they're overwhelming, and sometimes it creates a paralysis, and that we say we can't really do anything. But it was at that intersection point that I believe, with my skills and beliefs, that I was able to move forward and work with my mind and be able to offer that and also offer what was in my heart. So it was incredible. Sometimes we cannot change the past, but I tell you, I'm here to tell you, we can determine our future. During my travels around the world, I have found solutions that have been typically proposed and historically used in the field just aren't working, and that's just a fact. The lack of proper education, local engagement, maintenance, spare parts, all these different things, the design of technology, the actual right technology for the right time and place, all contributed to this. So in 2008, I co-founded a Canadian innovative charity called H2O for All. I wanted to form something that would create a difference and start to look at these things. I wanted to invite people who would intersect what they believed in and what was in their heart with what their skill sets were and what their dreams were. And I wanted to bring together these people from the arts community, from the business community, from the music community, from all these different communities, and to say, hey, I have something to give. I have something to offer to the world. You know, imagine creating eco-friendly, off-the-grid technology, and I've been able to do that. We've been able to implement 25 projects, helping hundreds of thousands of people every day, just because we started to imagine. You know, back in the day, I'd always imagine what it would be like walking up to a president of a country. And what would you say to a president? What would you do if a president asked you to meet him or her? So this past year, I was in Sierra Leone, West Africa, in a very poor area, and I got word that the president of Sierra Leone, His Excellency Ernest Bai Koroma, wanted to meet with me. And I'm like, whoa, what am I going to say? It's one of the poorest countries, war-ridden countries in the world. But what I came to him and I offered him was I spoke hope into the conversation. And I talked about the transfer of knowledge, which is our skills, and hope, which is our beliefs for his country and for what he was doing. And I partnered with him, and I'm headed back there in March to do some project work. So I imagine one day that I'd also bring sustainable change to the water sector. I'm a water engineer. That's what I've been educated to do. And I became great friends with a lady named Maria Mutagamba. And this past year, she was awarded a prize called Mama Africa in Cairo, Egypt. And she has helped the whole continent of Africa start to change water. She's helped over 1 billion people. And the amazing thing is I've become friends with her just because I've been able to talk to her about skill and belief for people, that we can not only offer them water, but we can offer them hope. We can start to change things. And you know, there's greater things to come. They're imagining things that would change our future. So I'm going to ask you, as I close, can you reimagine what your life's like? Can you reimagine that point in your life where you can start to see yourself on a different path? I close with this story. I remember being in northern Uganda in 2009, and northern Uganda has suffered from the longest war of brutality and all sorts of different things. And I was there providing water for a child rehabilitation center. And I was there for a few days and weeks. And I remember this young boy would come, and he would come and hang out with me every day. And we'd share food, we shared laughs, we'd do all sorts of stuff together. But he would be very guarded about what had happened to him during these war times. And one day he came to me and he said, Uncle, can I tell you my story? And I said, yes. So he said these words. He said, I've been living my whole life in fear of being abducted and killed. My parents were killed. He said, but I wanted to learn how to do things to help people like you do. And I spent for a moment and I started to think. And at that moment I realized I could not do anything to change his past. But you know what? I was a part of him imagining his future. Today, I hope I've given you an opportunity to imagine your future, to reimagine your life. I hope I've given you a lever to think about your life and the potential to where you can see your unique gifts, your expertise, and see where they can intersect with what's in your heart. It doesn't have to be exactly as you've imagined. But you know what? As long as you put yourself on a path, I guarantee it's going to be rewarding. The late Steve Jobs once said, be free to enter the most creative periods of your life. Do not lose faith, love what you do, and you'll know when you find it. I'm here to tell you don't have to travel to Africa or to all these different countries that I'm involved in every year like I do. There's ways that you can help people and manufacture change in the world around you every single day. So I tell you this today. I tell you to go forth, manufacture the life you've always dreamed of. Reimagine your life today. Thank you.